When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order.
This is the end for you, my master.
Just a little bit more than an hour ago, the Israelis bombed the central fruit market in Gaza City, and we had a mass influx of about 50 injured and between 10 and 15 killed. At the same time, they bombed an apartment house with children playing on the roof, and we had a lot of children also. So this is really like seen from the Dante's Inferno. It's like hell here now, and it's been bombing all night. Up till now, close to 500 people have been killed, and the number of casualties is getting to 2,500, of which 50% are children and women.
Are your hospitals reaching capacity? Can you deal with these people?
We have been doing surgery around the clock. I just talked to one of my colleagues in the ICU who has not been sleeping for 3 days, and the hospital is completely overcrowded. We're running 6-7 ORs, and there are injuries you just don't want to see in this world. Children coming in with open abdomens and legs cut off. We just had a child we had to amputate both legs and the arm. And the only crime they have done is being civilians, the Palestinians living in Gaza. The relief now is not more doctors and more drugs. The relief now is to stop the bombing immediately. This cannot go on. It's a disaster.
You've talked about the civilians, the women, the children, the men who aren't involved in this, but are you also getting casualties that are Hamas fighters?
To be honest, we came on New Year's Eve in the morning. I've seen one military person among the tens we have, hundreds that we have seen and treated. So anybody who tries to portray this as sort of a clean war against another army are lying. This is an all-out war against the civilian Palestinian population in Gaza, and we can prove that with the numbers. And you have to remember that the average age of the Gaza inhabitants is 17 years. It's a very young population, and 80% are living below the poverty limit of UN. So this is a poor and very young people, and they are able to escape absolutely nowhere because they cannot flee like other populations can in wartime because they are fenced in and they are in a cage. So they're bombing 1.5 million people in a cage. And young people, poor people, and, you cannot separate between the civilians and the fighters in such a situation.
I'm very sad to say that if Obama will go into the White House and continue to act like a slave and not like a leader, I don't see any change coming. If he continues to play golf and act like a slave, forced by AIPAC or any other interests and lobbyists in Washington, and if he continues to not to talk about the horrible crime that's happening in my country now, I don't see any change coming to the world.
I've no idea how the government reacts to what you say on international media like this, but what do you say to those accusations that there will be that you're a traitor, in effect, to Israel, that you're showing treachery, perhaps treason, in voicing the view that you've just voiced?
I risked my life for many years as a captain and an operation leader of operations in the Israeli Air Force. I worked with Israeli terror victims for many years. I know from a very close distance the pain of the Israeli people as well the Palestinian people. So no one can call me or the thousands of members of the anti-occupation movement in Israel that we are traitors. On contrary, we are patriots. We want our people to continue to exist, and we see our leaders' actions as a self-destruction policies that put in a great danger the future of all of us. And we want to simply, as I'm telling it to you, as a rescue pilot, as a former rescue pilot in the Israeli Air Force, this is the most important rescue mission I can take upon myself to save the people here, whether they are Israelis, Palestinians, Jews, Muslims, Christians, and we all know that the situation in the Middle East affect the whole world, and it could be as easy as that this kind of conflict can escalate to a world war. We don't forget the forces in the other places in the Middle East, the tension between Iran and the United States, other countries. We are in a great danger now, and if people want to help me as an Israeli and as a Jew, they have to put massive pressure on the Israeli government for ceasefire right now. Right now, we need a ceasefire. We need to be forced to sit and negotiate with the Hamas. We have no other legitimate action but sitting and negotiating now with the Hamas and with the Arab world. Don't forget that we have the Arab Initiative. For many years by now, Arab initiatives say that they offer complete peace and normalization if Israel withdraw to the 1967 borders. As an Israeli, this is my interest, to have peace with the Palestinians and all the Arab world, and my government ignored this request for many years. So this is my request.
This is what is making news right now. As attacks continue, who really started it?
Israel broke the ceasefire.
But Israelis say, not true. We will fact check it fairly, honestly. But this is important, and this is something I want to break down for the viewers. Yesterday, you and I were sitting here, and we had a conversation with Mustafa Barghouti, who's an independent legislator, Palestinian legislator. Right. And he said that most news organizations have ignored the possibility that the people who actually broke the ceasefire was not the Palestinians, or not Hamas in Gaza. What he said was, in fact, I think we've got that. Dan, play this, and then we'll give you some more information on it. Let's go ahead and go to that.
The world press community or media community is overwhelmed with the Israeli narrative, which is incorrect. The Israeli spokesperson have been spreading lies all over. The reality and the truth is that the side that broke this truce and this ceasefire was Israel. 2 months before it ended, Israel started attacking Rafah, started attacking Khan Yunis, and never lifted the blockade on Gaza. Gaza remained without fuel, without electricity, without bread, without medications, without any medical equipment for people who were dying in Gaza. 262 people died, sick people, because of an access to medical care. So Israel broke the ceasefire.
And you know what we did? I've checked with some of the folks here at our international desk, and I went to them and asked, what was he talking about, and do we have any information on that? Which they confirmed 2 months ago. This is back in November. There was an attack. It was an Israeli raid that took out 6 people. Now, let me refer you. It's not just us. We checked in other periodicals. Johnny, go over my shoulder if you can. Here we go. The 6-month ceasefire started coming apart at the beginning of November after Israeli commandos killed a team of Hamas fighters during a raid on a tunnel they suspected was being dug for kidnapping of Israeli soldiers. That raid set off more Palestinian rocketing. That's U.S. News and World Report. I got another one for you, I believe, here. Okay, this is The Guardian. Questionable, but nonetheless. A 4-month ceasefire between Israel and Palestinian militants in Gaza was in jeopardy today. This was actually reported when it happened after Israeli troops killed 6 gunmen in a raid in the territory. That's important to report. And here we go as well from theeconomist.com. And the point of contention here is this one. Johnny, one more. The last straw came in November when Israelis killed 6 gunmen, it said, were digging tunnels to launch a raid onto Israel, spurring Hamas to respond with a barrage of rockets. So, the question is to who started this.
There was a time when Israelis were safe from Hamas rockets during the recent ceasefire. In May, there were 149 rocket attacks. In June, before the ceasefire started on the 18th, there were 84. In the rest of June, just 3. Throughout July, August, September and October, there were only 15 attacks, and Israel agrees that none of these rockets were fired by Hamas. On November the 4th, Israel launched an attack that killed 6 Hamas fighters just inside the Gaza Strip. They say the militants were building a tunnel to try and kidnap an Israeli soldier. The result was a fresh barrage of rockets from Hamas. After November the 4th, there were 68 and 52 in December. During the entire period of the ceasefire, no Israelis were killed by Hamas rockets.
Our goals are minimalistic and defensive. Success is freeing the civilian population of southern Israel from the fear of an incoming Hamas rocket.
But if that was the case, there were no Hamas rockets during the ceasefire. Before November the 4th, there were no Hamas rockets for 4 months.
And that's correct.